before lockdown, in the dim and distant past, all that time ago, Derbyshire County Council sent out some marketing to a series of events that they were doing, and it started with an activity at Pride Park, and Laura Spivey and I went along to that, and then a follow-up activity at a very palatial hotel in Chesterfield. And I will only speak for myself, although Laura and I have spent a lot of time talking about it since. It rocked my world, truly changed my understanding of young people and of the people that I've been working alongside and trying to always treat with unconditional positive regard, and always see potential, and always see opportunity with and for. And all of a sudden, all of the things that I'd built in my mind about young people looked and felt very different. And it was mainly thanks to Suzanne. So Dr. Suzanne Zedek's joining us today, and I've followed her. I'm not very good on Twitter, but I've followed her on Twitter since then. And the things that stuck in my mind were, often as an educator, you are asking young people to do something that anatomically, neurally, if they've lived in trauma, is beyond their ability. And so what we can do as educators is change how we ask what we ask to enable. And enabling is the whole premise of everything I've done for 25 years. So it was really big stuff. I think that the other thing that really struck me, and it was the second session that Laura and I attended in Chesterfield, was that we went from 1 minute having, the group was huge and very diverse. So we went from having people like foster carers doing training around how to become trauma informed in being a foster parent, and half a dozen people in the room crying, to a discussion around the trauma of privilege. And it was a big discussion about Boris Johnson and his becoming Prime Minister, and that he had been raised in trauma, and that therefore there was lots and lots of really interesting stuff around relationships when children are raised in trauma away from their birth family in residential schools. So it was a mind-blowing afternoon. So Suzanne's joined us for two sessions, this one and the follow-on. This one I think is going to be very much based in the origin of well, not the origin of trauma and how that impacts on the brain. And then the follow-up session will be very much more based in how, as educators and practitioners, we can actually look at that information and work differently. So that's the plan. Thank you. Thanks ever so much, Suzanne.
Hello, everyone. I am delighted to be with you today, and I'm extra delighted that you want to be here. Sarah, that's a really powerful introduction that you just gave me. Here's what's interesting. I think everybody deserves to know this stuff. We have learned an awful lot about human development and about how relationships shape the biology of human beings, especially from childhood, from babyhood, from pregnancy. We have learned a tremendous amount in the last, certainly in the last 50 years and in the last 20 years. We've learned a whole lot of things we didn't always used to know. But that information has not always reached the wider public. And so where I think we are at the moment is in the midst of a movement that is trying to figure out, how do you translate this stuff for the public? How do you describe it? What do you do with it? What language do you use? What analogies do you use, so that people can get their heads around it and then put it into use in their lives as parents, or as for their education lecturers, or as primary teachers, or as police officers? I think it's really fascinating.